When you go to developer Boomfire Games' website, it tells you that they make today's games with yesterday's feelings. That's a pretty good description of what you get with Furwind, a side-scrolling platformer that sees a cutesy mascot character fight an evil forest monster in order to save his friends. It's a 16-bit adventure that looks and sounds the part, giving us an authentic experience that would have fit in nicely next to the likes of Mr. Nuts and Artie Lightfoot. But in a world filled with so many throwback platformers, is that enough? Let's find out. This is the story of what happens when an evil cult known as Darhoon wakes up an ancient demon that has been tucked away deep inside the forest. That's bad, but what makes it even worse is that the local village has been consumed in flames and the survivors have all been captured. It's up to a small fox named Furwind to go on a harrowing quest to stop the cult and bring peace back to the forest. That's not gonna be easy, because Furwind is not your typical action hero. This fox wasn't chosen for having super strength or some other helpful mutant ability. He's just a guy who fell into the role of being a hero. He starts the game with little more than a tail smack and a double jump. But if he survives long enough to make it through 15 stages found in 3 chapters, he'll learn new abilities that allow him to shoot through the air like a rocket, toss around a projectile attack, and heal up when your health is low. The 3 chapters are all split into several types of levels. We start out with the traditional forest stages full of secrets to uncover. Then there's a tower we need to climb while dodging fireballs and bottomless pits. We also see levels where we're being chased high up in the air by a wall of shadow arms. And then there's an especially challenging underground stage where you'll need to pick up these fireflies in order to see where you're going. Each of these stages have you looking for 2 bosses to find, each of which contains half of the idol you're trying to pick up. Once you've combined the 2 halves of the idol, it's off to the exit to uncover the next stage. Now, on top of beating up bosses and finding idols, you'll also need to take on several of the side quests in order to trigger the bigger fights. These bonus missions will trap you in much smaller stages and want you to defeat all the bad guys or destroy a glowing statue. The objectives are usually pretty easy, but completing them can be incredibly tough, especially as we near the end of the game. As much as it pains me to say it, a lot of the difficulty comes from a combination of leggy controls and claustrophobic level designs. This is one of those 2D platformers where the jump controls are off just enough to cause real problems in the more challenging stages. I played through the game on the Switch, and no matter if I used the Joy-Cons or the Pro Controller, I couldn't shake the feeling that the input had a bit of a lag. This made otherwise simple stages a lot more frustrating than they should have been. And if I'm being honest, it's one of the big reasons why I'm not more excited about Furwind. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, another problem is the level designs. Some of the stages are fine, such as ascending that tower, but too much of this game is stuck in tight areas with no place to move. This isn't helped much by our hero's pitiful short-range tail attack. It's entirely too easy to get badly injured by cheap hits, almost entirely because Furwind has the worst melee strike possible. And don't forget that every swing of that tail uses up a little bit of stamina, so there are times when our fox can't even swing his tail until he charges up a meter. What? None of this makes any sense. I'm also thoroughly underwhelmed by the new abilities Furwind learns along the way. Shooting himself like a rocket through the air seems useful at first, but I doubt I used it even 10 times throughout the course of the entire game. Same with the projectile attack, which you get at the very end of the game. It doesn't do much damage and can only be fired a limited amount of times. About the most useful skill is the one that heals our fox, but that just seems like an excuse to stop dropping random health pickups. What's disappointing is that the game wouldn't change at all if these abilities weren't included. You wouldn't even notice that they were missing. That's a shame, because Boomfire Games has all of the ingredients for an incredible side-scrolling platformer. I like the 16-bit graphics and the look of the characters, as well as the boss designs and the wide-open levels. They made some smart decisions that lead to a charming game that seems like the kind of thing that I normally would fall in love with. Unfortunately, the repetitive stages, laggy controls, bland power-ups, and predictable story left me underwhelmed. It's not bad, but Furwind the Fox deserves a more exciting adventure. A throwback to the early 1990s, Furwind feels like a 16-bit mascot game that was lost to time. This is a solid, side-scrolling platformer with a likable hero and a bunch of colorful stages to conquer. It's a game that looks and feels the part, but is marred by leggy gameplay issues and abilities that are completely inconsequential to the action. Furwind is also repetitive and often frustrating, leading to a throwback game that tries really hard, but never quite manages to equal the 16-bit games it's trying to emulate. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now here's the question I have for you. Who is your favorite furry platforming hero? That sounds like the setup to that song Shaft, but that would be a really terrible answer. Anyway, let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, tune in tomorrow for the second part of our Japan vs. the USA cover competition. It's filled with exciting games like Marvel Land? Okay, that one's not gonna sell you, but what about Streets of Rage? Yeah, that's the ticket. In the meantime, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,